I can only imagine where the odds are for this fight, but I can guarantee you by the end of this video, I might convince you of going the other way. But Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns agree to do battle, and let's be real, this is a massive fight for both guys. You think about Gilbert Burns and what he's accomplished in his career, it's insane, right? 4 losses, that's about it, with 20 wins, and the types of caliber fighters he's fighting is just incredible. Now you talk about Khamzat Chimaev, who, for the first 4 fights of his UFC career, actually pretty substantial. Now, we're going to change things up a bit and use these more advanced stats. My favorite site on the planet is definitely UFC stats, without question, and when you look at the numbers that Khamzat has put together, I don't care where this, if this was like the regional scene here in the outskirts of Toronto, I mean, yeah, I still am crazy impressed. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, regardless of the amount of fights. I think you get those outliers where it's just very dominant. You get the 11s sometimes, but still the strikes absorbed, 0.08, a singular fight or 4. What? 0.08 strikes absorbed, 75% striking defense to go with 77% striking accuracy. We've heard it before. The 8.68 again, it's just, the stats are godlike. There's no other way around it. 66% accuracy, and no one's ever even bothered to try taking this man down because they probably don't have a chance. 5.8, to have 5.8 submission attempts in 3 minutes and 14 seconds of time, because it's per 15 minutes, right? The guy has never seen that, but you look at these stats and you're just thinking to yourself, where can you go from here, right? But now we take a guy like Gilbert Burns, and when you look at this list, what stands out to you most? The very bottom, right? The quality of opponent. And the thing about Gilbert Burns is, his toughest mental battle was certainly the Kamaru Usman fight. And looking at his preparation for this fight, it's kind of insane to see just how much he understands the game. And what I mean, let's just watch this together. Shout out to Will Harris, as usual, doing God's work and inspiring us all.
I think everyone is very good, very tough to be top 10, top 15. Everyone technically is very good. For sure, a couple guys better here, better there, changing. These guys are more striking, these guys are more wrestling. For sure, 100% is mentally. 100%. People say, oh, whenever you go to a fight, it's 90. No, it's not 90%. It's 100% mentally.
And that's actually what I wanted to say about this fight anyway, before I even saw this video, and you think about it, from an accolades perspective, from a quality of opponent perspective, all those physical traits, Gilbert Burns checks all the boxes, right? But then you look at the mental game, and you think about what it takes to get into the octagon with a person like this, who's selling his persona the way he is, and who's proving it as he goes. It's definitely a mental game in every aspect of it, but it's extra mental in this one, because you have to just play the everybody's human card, right? And that's how Gilbert's looking at it, and he's putting his body through some shit.
We know a couple guys, we talk about a couple guys, they freaking a monster at the gym, and they go to the UFC, they don't freaking get the second contract. He's only mentally. He's what? Self-belief, self-confidence, preparation, being there, visualization, be there a couple of times, put yourself in the bad position, fight for it, keep going. Whenever the freaking lights are on, cameras on you just to keep doing the same thing. It's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of, to become a champion, to be on the freaking top of the top, you gotta check so much box: training, stand up, strength conditioning, physical therapy, this, mental, like dealing with pressure, dealing with these adversity, it's so many things that I don't think a lot of guys can check all of that. That's why it's gonna be freaking one guy undefeated like Khabib, one guy like Adesanya, one guy like Kamaru, one guy like Aldo. It's not going to be many guys like that, because to be able to reach mentally, like mentally, the highest level.
Yeah, so I mean, you really have to understand a champion's mentality, right? Like that's what we're chasing here. And so that's where, how does that check all the boxes? I think for me, you look at the quality of opponent, championship caliber, maybe not, but at the same time, like we said, first 4 fights in the UFC to look the way they have and against top quality opponents at that level, it's pretty amazing. And you have to think, right? The best thing going for Gilbert Burns in this fight is that newfound power, the newfound ability to really box it up. I think in this fight, he's got a lot of the abilities that you need to take on a person like Khamzat, who, uses such good striking to set up his takedowns. He's got the jiu-jitsu to kind of find the submissions as well. And he's just so strong, right? I think for me, I'm hoping that they go to war in the middle of that octagon. I hope that we see a good striking battle, kick things off. Gilbert's been clipped before. We've seen him get knocked out as well. I think in this case, it's just you got to be very smart with your opportunities. And we obviously know how good his BJJ is as well. And I think that's where you're going to see, talk about a yin and yang and just like the compliments to see what we see so well from Khamzat. But then defensively, what we can expect from Gilbert Burns, I think the boxing is becoming better and better and better. He seems to be becoming a much better athlete. So the quickness, the footwork, everything's going to move at a higher pace for him. And the big thing is, with those takedowns coming in from Khamzat, the BJJ at his level can definitely counteract some of that offense. And that's where we're going to have to see just how well Gilbert Burns can, avoid some big power punches and avoid those takedowns that get him into bad positions and either eat some ground and pound or maybe get submitted. It's just, for me, I think it's tough to see Gilbert get submitted here. And if that happens, it's an immediate title shot situation. There's just no way you wouldn't get that with submitting a fighter like Gilbert. So, paths to victory, I think it's just so obvious where things are with Khamzat. But I think with Gilbert, it's going to be that found power. It's going to be the boxing. And it's going to be the ability to defend those takedowns with some good BJJ himself, which might negate one of Khamzat's best qualities as a fighter. So, now we can talk about a line, and I'm going with minus 400. I just think the hype, everything there is just, it lands into one of the lines that should be, minus 300 or minus 400 above, and I'm not going to, beat around the bush with that. So let's take a quick look here at that line. Opens the minus 370, now sitting as high as a minus 600. Gilbert Burns plus 295, now as high as a plus 400. Talk about the public being fully convinced in this fight. We even mentioned, a few fights on this card have opening lines that have jumped more than 100 points. Plus 295 opener for Gilbert, now as high as a plus 400. If you're a believer in just, balances, checks and balances, this is, again, we talk about sprinkles and talk about having that play money to go with. You could do worse than just sprinkling on Gilbert Burns to pull off what looks to be an incredible upset, but the 4 losses are incredibly respectable, and the simple fact is he's 4-1 in his last 5, except for Kamaru Usman, who could go down as the greatest welterweight of all time. So keep that in mind. Don't let these lines fool you. Do some educated guessing. I think for me, some of these sprinkles stand out. I might not do the Darren Weeks as much, but I think a Gilbert Burns really looks a little enticing for me as a let's have some fun type of pick. So stay tuned for that fight. It's probably got the most hype outside of the co-main, which is Aljamain and Peter Yan, which we'll get into next. Stay tuned for that.